What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of 90 Day Fiance Before the 90 Days, Season 7, Episode 14, A Separate Piece. Let's talk about Niles and Matilda. So last week, Niles and Matilda met with Mr. Ark, who is like this community leader, and Mr. Ark put Niles up on game and told him that you don't have to have some big knocking ceremony, you don't have to have the big party and all of that and spend all this money. All you have to do is do the knocking ceremony and then right after that, get married. That's all that's required. So Niles got on Matilda's case when they were on their way back to the hotel, telling Matilda, well, you didn't tell me all of this stuff. If it wasn't for Mr. Ark, I wouldn't have known that I didn't have to pay for this big party. And Matilda got mad at Niles because in front of Mr. Ark, Niles basically threw her under the bus because when they were in front of Mr. Ark, Niles made it seem like Matilda was misleading him when it came to paying for this big party that her family had planned, the party which would be part of the knocking ceremony. So Matilda got mad at Niles. Niles was mad at Matilda for this whole misunderstanding and miscommunication. But when they got back to the hotel, Niles did feel bad about how he talked to Matilda in the car and the way that he made her look in front of Mr. Ark. And so he said that he should not have accused Matilda of intentionally trying to mislead him, that he should not have done that in front of Mr. Ark. And Niles said that he took out his frustration on her because he was frustrated because Mr. Ark made him feel some type of way, made him feel like he was going against their tradition or their culture when it comes to the knocking ceremony. And so because he was frustrated with that, he took out his frustration on Matilda. So Mr. Ark got into his ass, and so he felt like he had to get into Matilda's. So he apologized for all of that. Niles also acknowledges that her family is, they're going against their tradition by allowing him to marry Matilda much later instead of right after the knocking ceremony because he kept talking about how he had no intentions of getting married on this trip. And so the family reluctantly allowed him to come back whenever he was ready to come back to marry Matilda, even though that's not what they normally do. So he does acknowledge to Matilda that, I understand that your family is doing a lot for me. They're accommodating me and going against, traditional Ghanaian culture. So he tells Matilda that he is willing to get married right after the knocking ceremony. Ever since he was in the United States, this man has been talking about how he will not get married on this trip. He is not ready to get married on this trip because him and Matilda don't really know each other and they need to take time to get to know each other better before they get married. He was willing to do the knocking ceremony, but not willing to do the marriage that should come right after that. So this whole entire time, he was resisting getting married right after the knocking ceremony. And now after Mr. Ark, you know, told him a thing or two, he's changed his mind. And he's decided that he's going to get married right after the knocking ceremony. And I think it has a lot to do, not necessarily with him feeling ready to get married to Matilda, but I think it has a lot to do with the fact that he feels like, Mr. Ark just Mr. Ark put the fear of death in him. Okay, Mr. Ark is a very authoritative figure, and it's kind of like when he says something, everybody listens. And so I think I think Niles is really just trying to do what Mr. Ark told him to do. He doesn't want to go against that. I don't think it has anything to do with his feelings about Matilda changing. So he says he's going to go ahead and get married after the knocking ceremony, but his only condition is that he does not want to have the big party afterwards or whenever. He doesn't want to have the big party. So Matilda is like, okay, we don't have to have the big party. So now they only have 2 days to plan a wedding. Okay, because of Niles going back and forth with what the hell he wants to do. Now they only have 2 days now to plan the wedding. So the producers ask him if Mr. Ark pressured him into getting married. And Niles said no, he did not feel pressured by Mr. Ark, but I highly doubt that because the only thing that's changed is the fact that Mr. Ark, in his very authoritative, godlike voice, told Niles, no, 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 you're not going to go and come back to get married. You're going to get married after the knocking ceremony. So I don't know what else could have. I mean, the fact that Niles wants to take credit for changing his mind all on his own. Like he had this huge change of heart. No, Niles, you know that Mr. Ark put the fear of death in you, and that's the reason why you changed your mind about getting married. So I don't believe him at all. He says that nobody pressured him. He said this is exactly what he wants to do. He also said that if he didn't want to get married, he wouldn't have gotten married. I don't think Mr. Ark would have let you would have let Niles get away with that, because the knocking ceremony that was supposed to take place, Mr. Ark was going to be there. And so I don't think Niles was ready to face Mr. Ark, if he was not going to be getting married to Matilda right then and there. So it's now it's the day before the wedding. Mr. Ark comes to Matilda's house to negotiate the bride price. So we have Mr. Ark there, his wife, Matilda, Niles, and all of Matilda's family. The only people that are missing are the brothers and the uncles. They're not there. So they have to be there in order for Mr. Ark to negotiate the bride price, because he can't negotiate it with her mom. I guess he has to negotiate it with a male figure of the family. So the mother calls either her brothers or her sons. I'm not sure who. I think she called her brother. So she called her brother, and they began to negotiate the bride price. And what it comes down to is that Nas is going to have to pay $400 for the bride price. Now, Niall says that when he had changed his mind about getting married on this trip, he completely forgot about the fact that there is a cost to this wedding. And now he's worried about whether or not he has enough money to cover the bride price. Not just the bride price, yeah, to cover the bride price. So Matilda tells him that they need to get the money right away, because this wedding is happening sooner than later. So they have to get the money right away. And so they go to an ATM machine, and Niles comes back. Instead of coming back with the $400, which is the price that he agreed to, he comes back with $109 from the ATM machine. And that was all of the money that this man had. And so Matilda was very confused. And so Matilda's like, "Oh God, this isn't enough. This is not even enough to cover the cost of my wedding dress." So Niles tells her that there's something that he needs to confess to her. He tells her that right before he came on this trip to Ghana, he ended up losing his job. He said that he was blindsided by that. He says his employer presented him with the letter of termination, basically letting him know that it wasn't going to work out. Niles' employment there wasn't going to work out. He didn't give any other explanation. I guess, according to Niles, the employer gave no other explanation other than that. And so he traveled to Ghana with no job. And so I'm thinking to myself, that's probably the real reason why he didn't want to get married, because he couldn't afford it. It had nothing to do with him and Matilda getting to know each other better or not. It's just a simple fact that he couldn't afford to pay for a wedding on this trip because he has no job. So this whole time that he's in Ghana, you know, with spending time with Matilda, spending time with her family, this whole entire time, he knew that he had no job to go back to, and wasn't willing to tell Matilda when he should have told her, which was early on in the trip, or as soon, even before he left the United States. It would have been something that he should have told her, because you plan on marrying this woman. Okay. There's a lot of expectations. Her family has very high expectations of this relationship. So this is something he should have told Matilda way before he left the United States. But he decides to tell her the day before they're supposed to get married. Okay, so she's in full panic mode, because she starts like scratching her head and rubbing her face, because now she's extremely worried. This man cannot pay for her dress or his suit or anything else that he needs to pay for, or the bride price or anything else. So Matilda she tells us that she wished that he would have told her this earlier, because then if he would have told them earlier that he didn't have a job, then when it came time to negotiating the bride price, they probably would have agreed to a lower price. But because, he didn't talk about his financial situation, now he's locked into paying the $400. And Matilda says, it's really difficult to be with a man who is not very honest, who doesn't tell you the truth. Yeah, it is extremely difficult. So Niles tells Matilda, because Matilda's like, "So what are you going to do?" And Niles says, "Well, I'm going to talk to Mr. Ark and see if he can help me." How, Niles? Mr. Ark can't even afford a proper hand, a proper prosthetic hand. How is he going to help you pay for the bride price? Like, how do you expect that to happen? I mean, this is just completely in shambles. I'm pretty sure it's all going to work out. You know how they do things for dramatic effect. I'm pretty sure at the end of it all, this all probably going to work out and they're going to end up having a beautiful wedding. I have no idea, but Niles. But then again, all we can do is, we just have to understand and that because of his autism, he doesn't know how to act in social situations and doesn't know when it's the right thing to talk about something, and he can't pick up on social cues and all of that. I don't know what else to say about this. Um, I'm just like, he has taken Matilda on such a roller coaster ride with this whole situation, coming from telling her he's not gonna get married, and then he proposes to her, then he's willing to do the knocking ceremony but not the wedding, then he talks to Mr. Ark, and now he's willing to get married again, but now he can't pay for anything. I mean, he's taking this girl on such an roller coaster ride. It's just, anyways, let's move on. Let's talk about Joe and Magda. So it's the next day. Magna is still really upset with Joe. This is the next day after she had asked him, so when you were with the other girl, when you had sex with the other girl, when did you have sex with her? Because she wants to know, I guess, how far into the relationship was he with this other girl, and also was this around or on her birthday? And Joe couldn't give her a specific date. He says he doesn't remember when he was with the other woman. So they went to bed, I guess, angry. So the next day, she's still upset. She's still in the mood, and they're supposed to go to the salt mines. So they go to the salt mines, and it was really beautiful. Those salt mines were really beautiful. We got to see the salt sculptures that the miners did. Way back in the day when the mine was still active, they built these beautiful sculptures of, like, I don't know, of people basically. And I think there was even a sculpture of like a not an elf, but like a gnome, looked like a garden gnome. They also sculpted a chapel in the salt mines. And it was just really beautiful experience. But the whole entire time, Magna was in a mood because Joe couldn't remember when he had sex with this other girl. So she's concerned that he's probably going to end up cheating again because she wants to get to the root of the problem. She wants to know when, where, how, why did this all happen, because she feels like the more information she gets, then she can understand whether or not he's going to end up cheating on her again. He can only tell her that it was just one time. He can't tell her when it happened. And she doesn't understand, if he claims that he was not sexually active, he wasn't that sexually active, how could he not remember this particular incident? I guess she's implying for you to not remember means that you were probably sleeping around with a lot of girls, and that's why you don't remember. And he convinces her that it was just this one time with this one girl. He just can't remember when it happened. So then she tells him, "You need to tell me everything, because if I end up finding information about you later, it's not going to be good for you. So if you have anything else to tell me, you need to go ahead and confess all your sins to me right here and now." He considers telling her that one of his friends is actually an ex-girlfriend. A friend that he hangs out with a lot is actually an ex-girlfriend. He considers telling her that, but at the last minute, he changes his mind and does not reveal that. Later on, he tells us that the reason why he didn't tell her about Jill, which is the girlfriend that is now an ex and a current friend, the reason why he didn't tell her about Jill was because he realized it really wasn't that important. She's more of a friend to him than an ex. It was 7 years ago when they dated. So he was like, why even bring that up? It's old news. So it wasn't even worth mentioning. Magna tells us that she does forgive Joe because when he told her that he's not hiding anything else from her, she believed him. It looked like he was being really sincere. Magna also tells us that if he wants to get married and have kids with her, then he's going to have to grow up because he does have a little bit of immaturity about him. And I'm thinking to myself, Magna, what you see is what you get with Joe. There's no more growing up for him to do. This is as good as it's going to get. I don't see him changing his personality in the near future. She's expecting expecting him to just magically become this extremely very mature type of man, and I don't think that's ever going to happen. This is how Joe is. This is who Joe is. So after the salt mines, they go back to the apartment that they're staying at, and Magna's not feeling well. She has a raging headache, and so he makes her like an ice pack. He puts her to bed. Throughout the night, she allowed him to sleep in the same bed with her. Throughout the night, he was looking after her, and so she says that she's beginning to trust him more because he showed so much care for her when she had her headache. And this is something that she's not used to at all from her past boyfriends. The only one that's ever really taken care of her has been her mother. And I'm thinking to myself, what Joe is doing by taking care of you, I mean, that's like the bare minimum that a boyfriend should do, is to look after you and give you what you need and make sure that you're comfortable and that you're okay. That's like the bare minimum. So for her to say that, I was like, damn, Magna, what kind of guys have you dated in the past? So the next day, he makes her breakfast, and he's still taking care of her, and she's still really impressed by the fact that he made her scrambled eggs. Later on, she takes him to meet her friends and also to meet her dog, Hades. So the friends tell us in their own confessional that there was a misunderstanding, obviously, that we all knew about between Joe and Magda. The misunderstanding being they really were not on the same page as far as when did their exclusivity start. When were they supposed to be like committed and monogamous? Because Joe was still out there, spreading it wide, while Magna thought that they were in a very committed relationship. So they had that misunderstanding, but that has been cleared up now. So now they're on the same page. So they're sitting in this restaurant and they are asking, so Joe, do you plan on getting married to Magda? And Joe is like, yeah, we're going to have to get married in order for her to come to the United States with me. So the friends say that Magna has always dreamed of coming to America. And then Joe like looks at Magna kind of suspiciously, kind of like, oh, really? This has been a big dream of yours this whole time. Okay. He doesn't say anything, but he kind of looked at her. And so then the friends also reveal to Joe that they're very worried about Magda because she just came from a very difficult relationship where she ended up moving to Germany with this guy, and this guy ended up breaking her heart. And Joe didn't know that. He had no idea. And so Joe was like, oh, you never told me about this, that you moved to Germany for, a relationship. So I guess in Joe's mind, he's thinking this is what she does. This is her MO. She meets a guy, falls really hard, really fast, has these high expectations of their relationship, moves to the guy's other country to be with this guy. And so now I'm thinking he's probably worried, oh my God, is she using me for a visa? All these thoughts are going through his head. Plus the fact that she wants to get married and start having kids at warp speed. This also worries Joe. He's like, she's moving a little bit too fast for me. I'm going to need her to slow down a little bit. So he's feeling a little bit overwhelmed with all of this. When this is the reason why, you need to take time to get to know each other, but I'm preaching to the choir. So we know what they need to do, but they never listen to us. So good luck, Joe, with all of that. And so I think he's probably going to end up telling her that they need to kind of slow it down a little bit. And Magna seems like the kind of person where she doesn't want to be told no. Um, she's the kind of person, you give her an inch, she wants a mile. Just because he's like letting her know, I like you, I'm feeling you. In her mind, it's like, okay, now it's time for us to get married and bust out with 3 kids within a year. Moving on to Faith and Loren. So they're back in Manila. Um, Loren is really excited that he is at the end of his gonorrhea medication. He goes to the clinic and he gets a clean bill of health. He tests negative for gonorrhea. So he brings the paperwork back to Faith, and Faith is happy. So in order to celebrate, they decide to go out to a drag show with a few of Faith's friends. So the friends already know that Loren had cheated on Faith. And so they're already looking at him with their really good eye. And so they're sitting there, they're enjoying the drag show. Everybody begins to encourage Loren to get on stage and do a little dance. And she gets on stage and she turns it out. She did a really good job. She was up and down that pole. She was giving them everything. She did a really good job. I enjoyed watching Faith on stage. And Loren also enjoyed watching Faith on stage because when she got off stage, they kissed, like a little peck on the lips. And this was the first time that they've kissed since he's arrived in the Philippines because, he had gonorrhea. So they sit down, they're talking to the friends. The friends bring up that they know that Loren had gonorrhea. I'm assuming that this was prompted by the producers because I can't imagine going out with my friend and her boyfriend and then me bringing up, oh, by the way, I know that you had gonorrhea. Like, I can't imagine me bringing that up as a topic of conversation where we're in a nightclub. That was so bizarre to me that they brought that up, but they did. And I guess they're looking out for their girl, or like I said, this is something that the producers told them to bring up to make it interesting. So they tell him, yeah, we know that you had that you stepped out on Faith and that you had gonorrhea. And Loren, he says to the friends, well, I thought she knew that I was sleeping around because of the fact that he would tell Faith that he was spending the night at a friend's house or he was sleeping on a friend's couch. To him, she should have known that he was also having sex with said friend. She should have just known that. Should have just read his mind and known that. So that was just really awkward. So that was his defense. He was like, well, I thought she already knew that I was sleeping around. It's not my fault that she didn't read my mind, that she couldn't read my mind. And so after that, Loren says that, but then the friends were like, but you were still in a relationship with her. And he said that, well, we were on an online relationship, which is different than having a face-to-face relationship. I guess in his mind, it's like, if it's online, all bets are off. We can do whatever the hell we want to do because it's only online that we're communicating. I guess that was his excuse. The friend asked how many people was he with while he was dating Faith. And so he starts doing the math in his head, counting on his fingers and toes and everything. And it's going to be bad. Whatever number he gives, just multiply that by 2. And that might be closer to the truth. So he says, oh, it was 5. Then he says, no, it was 7. I know none of the friends believe that. I know Loren didn't believe it because I didn't. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. Only 5 to 7. Come on. So everybody lowballs their number, especially when you're being accused of cheating. You're being accused of picking up an STD because you were cheating. I don't think that he was going to give an honest answer. So after that, let me see, where are we? Okay, so the friends want reassurance from Loren that he's not going to cheat on Faith ever again. I don't know how you can get such reassurance. I don't understand. Oh, the only thing that's going to reassure you that someone isn't going to cheat is if they don't cheat. You just have to let time do its thing. Only time will tell whether or not he's going to cheat on her again. There's nothing he can say to reassure anybody that he's not going to cheat. There's just nothing he can say. Time will tell. That's the only thing. She just has to put faith in him and see, how it all works out. So he promises that he's not going to cheat again. When Loren goes to the bathroom, the friends tell Faith that they are not feeling Loren at all. They don't think this is a good match. They say that Loren is trouble, that he's not trustworthy, and they really want her to be careful. So they're basically like, we don't like him. We don't like him for you. This is not a good relationship. We don't want you to be with them. But if you're going to stay with him, we want you to be super careful. At some point, they all leave the club, right? So we see them all outside. Loren is waiting on the sidewalk, I guess, for their taxi or their Uber to show up. And then all of a sudden, there's some words on the screen, something about when they weren't filming Loren. I don't know. When they weren't filming, something went down. Something about the friends had seen Loren flirt with one of the drag queen performers or something like that. So then we see one of Faith's friend pull her to the side, and they're all outside, right, waiting for their Ubers to show up. So they pull Loren to the side, and Loren is off in the distance waiting for the car. And the friend tells Faith, hey, when we all came outside, we're waiting for our Ubers to show, and you were kind of off in the distance somewhere, and your back was turned towards Loren, and there was a drag queen there that was near him, and he was flirting with her. He even kissed her. And then the friend demonstrated how Loren kissed the drag queen. It was like a peck. I don't know if it was on the lips or on the cheek or where it was, but it was like a peck. There was some type of flirtation going on that involves some type of physical touching. So, of course, Faith is pissed off. The friend tells her, I'm not lying to you. I love you. I've been your best friend for years. I would never lie to you. This is what happened. This is what I saw. So when she gets in the car with Loren, she brings that up. So she says to him, my friend tells me that you were flirting with the drag queen, that you were flirting with somebody. And so Loren says, who was I flirting with? And he denied. He's like, I wasn't flirting with anybody. Who was I flirting with? And then Faith says, well, I don't know. You tell me. I don't know who it was. And then she says that her friend told her that they saw him kissing a drag queen or something. And Loren says, well, that's what you're supposed to do. We're at a drag queen club. We're watching a drag queen performance. Of course, you're supposed to flirt with them. That's how you show them that you appreciate their performance. That's what you're supposed to do. You see how he does that Jedi mind trick? You're not supposed to show them that you like their performance by flirting with them, especially when you are in a committed relationship and you're talking about marrying this woman and you've met her family. No, the way that you show appreciation is by tipping them and giving them money. That's how you show that you appreciate their performance, not by locking lips with them and flirting with them when your fiance is like right there. So, needless to say, Faith did not believe him. She's like, "Oh, that's what you do." So don't. She said something about don't bring your American customs here to the Philippines because that's not how we do it here. This is just shows how manipulative Loren is, because with the whole cheating thing, he told her, well, I thought you knew when I told you that I was, spending the night on a friend's couch. You're supposed to assume that the friend was right there on the couch with me and we were bumping and grinding. He does that whole thing. Well, you were supposed to know that. How did you not know that? What's wrong with you? How come you don't know that? And then with the whole I'm flirting with the drag queen. Well, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, silly. You silly rabbit. Don't you know that's what you're supposed to do at a drag queen show? Like, Lauren, stop. Ugh. I really hope that if nothing else, this helps Faith see the light and she ends it with this guy. I really hope that she ends it with this guy, because this is how it's going to be. Him constantly trying to twist the truth and then gaslighting you into thinking that you're crazy for thinking that it's wrong for him to sleep around when you're in a relationship with somebody, or thinking that there's something wrong with you for thinking that it's not okay to try to kiss another person when you're in a relationship. Moving on. Adnan and Tiger Lily. Let me get myself together before I talk about Adnan and Tiger Lily, because I could easily go off on Tiger Lily, and I really want to keep it cute and copacetic. So let me just woosah, gather myself. So there's this dumb scene where they're gonna go swimming in the hotel pool. So before they go to the pool, they have a discussion about her swimming attire. So obviously, Adnan, a man who practices Islam and who, in his religion, women are supposed to be modest and be covered up at all times, especially, it's like, this is your wife, right? So she knew that much because she brought some pre-approved bathing suits. So she just wanted to know which one did he approve of. So she had one which was like a complete bodysuit from head to toe, arms completely covered. It went all the way down her ankles, like a bodysuit, completely covered up. It looked like it was a bodysuit. I was gonna say like what when people go when they go like deep sea diving, those type of suits that they wear. It was very similar to that. So he was cool with that because it kept her covered up. Then she tried on this black rubber dress. And he didn't like the dress because it showed her legs. And I think it also showed her arms. He didn't like the black rubber dress because it would reveal too much skin. But he didn't want to argue with her. He didn't want to make a big deal about it. So he was like, that's fine. You can wear that. So they get to the pool, and oh, by the way, she's also requiring him to be covered up as well, which he thinks is stupid because in his mind it's like, why would I have to be covered up? I don't, whatever. So he appeases her and he puts on his swimming trunks, and plus he has to have on a t-shirt. She said something about, oh, but your legs are showing. So they get to the pool and she sees that there's other people at the pool and there's a woman there. There's people there in their bikinis and whatever, their regular bathing suits. So she feels really bad that she has to be covered up like this in her black rubber dress. So she tells him that she's not comfortable. He can tell that she's not comfortable. And so then he says to her, but Tiger Lily, you knew I told you that when we got married, that there were going to be changes, that you're going to have to change your whole lifestyle. And so she says, oh, when you said changes, I thought you meant that you were just going to like shower me with, love and gifts and all this other stuff. I didn't think you meant, girl, what? So you're going to act completely ignorant to the fact that Islamic men want their women to dress modestly. You're going to act like you've never heard of this, that it's crazy for him to follow this particular part of his religion that dictates women should be covered up. You're going to pretend like this is just an Adnan thing where he just is so jealous or whatever. He wants you to be covered up at all times because there's one other man to look at. It's got nothing to do with his religion, this religion that's been around for a gazillion years, that's as old as Christianity. You're going to act like you know nothing about that. So they're in the pool, and she tells him, well, you never told me that I would have to be covered up, even like as I go swimming. You never told me these things. But Tiger Lily, y'all were together for like a hot second, then you decided to marry this man. Y'all didn't have time to have any other kind of conversation other than planning the wedding. Y'all knew each other for like 6 months, probably did just a whole bunch of heavy flirting and sexting when y'all were communicating with one another online. And then when you showed up to Jordan, y'all had to plan, you get ready for this wedding. Y'all didn't have time to talk about anything. And also, for you to expect him to tell you, why didn't you ask him? Because you're the one that has more to lose than he does. You're the one that has to compromise more than he does. Why didn't you ask him, hey, okay, you're marrying a Westerner. Am I expected also do you expect me to convert? Do you expect me to dress a certain way? Am I supposed to follow certain rules and regulations of your religion? What's expected of me as a wife to an Islamic husband? What do you expect, or do you have expect? You should have asked. Just as much as he should have told you, you should have asked. It's a two-way street. So for her, like to act like, and it's like, even if you never studied Islam, okay, you've never studied it, you don't know anybody that's Islamic, I'm thinking you've watched this show that you signed up for, because you're going to be, you're even a bigger idiot if you signed up for a show and you haven't seen one single episode, because almost every single season there's this, where there's a Westerner marrying a Muslim, and there's this clash of cultures and religion. So Tiger Lily, I know you're not that dumb that you would sign up for a show that you've never seen before, because this happens just about in every single season on just about every single franchise of 90 Day Fiance. So you're marrying an Islamic man. He practices Islam. That is his religion. And you didn't bother to ask what's expected of me to figure out all those conversations that y'all had online when y'all were getting to know each other. What the hell were y'all talking about? What were y'all talking about? Because that would be like dating a Muslim 101 is to ask them, okay, do you practice Islam? Okay, you do. So if we plan on getting married, what do you expect of me? What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to convert? Am I supposed to dress a certain way? Am I supposed to act a certain way? That's like so basic. So I can't give Tiger Lily and Adnan too much more of my time, because I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say. She's stupid. I mean, I hate to insult the woman like that, but girl, you acting so crazy and so confused about the fact that you can't wear a bikini in a public pool. And then for you to be like, well, if I have to be covered up, you have to be covered up too. Girl, what? There is a first of all, there's a double standard in a lot of cultures. Even in American society, there is a double standard where, for example, men can be with 1,000 women in one night, and they're applauded for that, and they're seen as, the goat. Everybody is like pat them on the back because they know how to get women. A woman does it, you're a whore, you're a slut, you're this, you're that, you're dirty, you're trash. Even the women will attack you if your love life is as active as a man's. Even the women are going to come after you, not just the men. So there's a double standard here as well. In so many areas of our culture, there's a double standard. Men can walk away from their kids and it's like, oh, okay, whatever. But if a woman does it, you're like the worst mother ever. If you decide to be like, hey, I'm gonna leave the kids with their dad, I'm gonna go do my thing, you're considered like, the spawn of Satan if you do something. There's a double standard in so many areas of American culture. So don't act like you're not familiar with double standards, Tiger Lily, and that everything is fair and equal in the United States, because it's not. Anyways, let me move on. Vanya. So Vanya's FaceTiming her cousin. She tells her cousin that ever since, she broke up with Bojo, she's considering going back home. Her cousin tells her, no, you've got time left on your vacation there. I want you to stay there, have a good time, get back on your dating app and, find another man, get under somebody, try to get over somebody else. So Vanya's like, well, my cousin really doesn't understand how hard, because my cousin's married. So she really doesn't understand how hard it is for me to put myself out there again after I just had my heart broken by Bojo. So she decides to go ahead and stay in Croatia. So she goes to this outside cafe, another outside cafe. And she's sitting outside having her hot chocolate. And a guy approaches her and he asks her, can I sit down? She says yes. He compliments her, tells her that she's very attractive. And she tells him about Bojo, how she came all the way to Croatia to be with the man, but the man broke her heart, et cetera, et cetera. And then the man is like, well, consider this a date, a spontaneous date. It wasn't planned, but it's like a spontaneous date. So she giggles at that. And then he tells her that, he's interested in her, but he's in a relationship. But it's an open relationship. They just opened their relationship. And so he wants to know if she's down. She down with the threesome, with the menage a trois. And so she's completely turned off by that. She says she doesn't want to share. And so she gives a very hard no at that. So that's Vanya's story. I'm glad that she decided to stay and to enjoy the rest of her stay in Croatia, because don't let that guy, ruin your time in Croatia. Stay there, have a good time. Get under somebody, get under a couple of somebodies to try to get over Bojo, because Bojo really wasn't worth it. He led her on. He knows he led her on. He lied to her. He led her on. He changed his mind about being with her. I'm thinking because maybe the ex was giving him signs that she might want to go back to him or something. That's what I think was going on there. I don't think his attraction for her turned off that quickly. I think he just, would rather be with the one that broke his heart. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please don't forget to rate the video if you like this content. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.